What's up, Liberty Hill Comics? You are about to witness the greatest comic book live conservation show on planet Earth or anywhere in the solar system. Ladies and gentlemen, conservators of all ages, please join me in welcoming the conservators. Hey!
Wow, that was quite the introduction there, sir.
I got lots of energy at the beginning of the
Yeah,
show.
I was gonna say you've been waiting to say that one.
I have. I've been waiting a whole week. You know.
I know.
Then it's too much time in between our live shows. I feel like.
Oh yeah, and sometimes. Well, then we might be doing something even more in the future. So we'll see.
Who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows? For those of you that join regularly, you may notice we have the professor with us, regular guest host, Professor Peter Alachi. I expect Phil to join us soon. He's running just a few minutes behind, but I thought we'd get started. We'd say hi to everybody. We'd do our intros. We would thank our sponsors. And rather than leave everybody waiting in the green room, as it were. So why don't you guys say hi? Captain Larry, you're not at home.
I am not at home.
That's hotel decor behind you.
Yes, it is definitely hotel decor. Yes, I am currently in Stuttgart, Germany.
Oh.
And so it's quite early for me, but I gotta join my co-hosts and have a good show with you guys. So yeah,
I grew up in Michigan, so I'm like a big three, mostly GM guy, generally speaking. But we do have a car that was manufactured in Stuttgart.
Do you know?
Yeah. It's in the garage in an undisclosed location in the Texas Hill Country, but I love it. It's really a great car. I don't know if anybody else has ever had the privilege of owning a Porsche, but
well, this is the headquarters in the Mercedes-Benz, and so on my particular flight, which was canceled today due to inclement weather in all sorts of places, we are flying parts from Germany over to Birmingham, Alabama, where there is a Mercedes assembly plant. Believe it or not.
Yeah.
We do build Mercedes in America. I did not know that.
Yeah. Actually, I think Porsche is the only one of the big three German manufacturers that doesn't build any vehicles in America. They're all still built over there.
That's a Porsche culture thing. Everything has to be built in Germany.
Yeah. Sorry for the interruption, but well, like I said, I just wanted to gush for a moment about the vehicle because they're pretty nice. Even for a GM guy like myself.
As long as you don't tell me you're a Ford guy. Sorry, all you Ford people. Sorry.
We love the Ford folks. But Captain Larry, tell us about what's going on. I know you have a lot of new content on your channel.
I do.
It's true. Update people on that, and then tell them where they can find you.
You can find me at Flying Out Comics on YouTube. Quite a few updates right now. Then also on Instagram, you can find me at Flying Out Comics. That's the best way to contact me, is via Instagram. But yeah, I have quite a few major projects going on right now. I've got a Batman #5, Superman #8. And the Smash Comics, and I do a lot of things concurrently. As we've talked about before, putting together these YouTube videos takes a lot of time, and so when I am home, I'll shoot raw video, then I take it on the road with me, like I do now, and then edit everything out. But I have probably 8 projects going at the same time, some of which I'm not filming at all. I just get them out.
You gotta, sometimes
So-
you have to walk away from projects. Sometimes you need things to dry out.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need the paper to settle. All kinds of things can happen.
Yeah. Sometimes
That's very normal.
for me,
I
it's
feel like.
yeah. I'm doing ink removal right now from this Batman #5, which is it is a big boy comic, and it's had some challenges, but the ink removal is coming off.
It's going really
Um,
well.
yeah, it's looking good.
Channel. Sorry, I
So.
saw the video on your channel from a few days ago, and you were using alcohol to take care and dabbing it, and using vacuum and all that take care of the color touch that you had on the Batman #5. You did a magnificent job, I have to say.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I actually have to give Phil some credit on that one. He gave me some advice on the ink removal, and he was spot on. Did have a little bit of an error where I had the ink bleed, immediately bleed through the back cover, and that was like, oh
I
my
saw
god,
that.
what did I just do? And so I think I've got all of the ink completely removed. I'm going to have some buddy take a look at it to make sure it passes muster at CGC for complete removal, because otherwise whatever's left over has to be cut out basically, and that is
Mhm.
one thing I did not want to do to such a beautiful book. So
Yeah.
it does need a spine, so we'll be leaf casting a spine. But yeah, it's coming along. Then the Superman book is really a huge tear through the cover. That's come together really nice. It's a horrid spine roll. But there's just a bunch of things that are coming along pretty good, and hopefully it's educational for everybody.
Oh, yeah.
That's the main purpose.
Single digit Superman, single digit Batman books. That's love to see books of that level conserved. So not very many people, doing that kind of content. So I love to see it. Professor, what have you been up to? I mean, I know you're teaching, man.
Yeah, well, this week, yeah, of course, I managed to cut myself with a razor blade opening a microscope slide.
No.
But other than that, it was a successful week. We don't know about next week, of course, because of the snow.
Yeah.
So we have already about a foot of snow on the ground. We're expecting another foot by the time it's over. They're saying 24 inches altogether in the Salem area. So it's it was pretty cold yesterday, I have to say. It was like single digit yesterday, 7 degrees Fahrenheit yesterday. Today is like 26, right? So we've been on the balmy side, but it's really snowing hard right now.
It was colder here in Texas today. We had 18. This morning, it was 18 with wind chill to 2. And I want to take this opportunity to say, I know there are some folks suffering in this weather, and our thoughts are with you. Hopefully everyone is safe and sound and sees this. Hopefully most folks are seeing this as an opportunity to just spend some time with family, spend some time shut in, watch classic movies and and snuggle. Yep. I'm actually, I'm in front of, as you know, this is my fireplace mantle. My ass is burning up right now because I have a fire. So, I'm doing it right. We always have. I grew up heating a house with wood. My brother and I would spend the whole summer cutting trees, splitting, stacking all the wood, and then we would spend the whole winter hauling the wood into the house and burning it. And I did that for years. So it's old hat for me. I've always got a cord or two of good dry oak laid up. And so I'm usually in pretty good shape, regardless. As long as the utility companies don't shut everything off, as they did to us here in Texas a few years ago when they shut the water off and busted 5 of my pipes because I couldn't drip water anymore.
I remember that.
Yeah. Wow. They called it like snowpocalypse, and I was like, they should just call it the public utility crisis, because the snow and the cold wasn't really the problem. It was that the infrastructure couldn't handle it.
Isn't Texas they're the only state that's not attached to the national grid?
It's true for electricity, right? Yeah, we have ERCOT. There's 2 national grids actually. There's an east and a west national grid, and Texas has its own grid. And you know why? We just can't cotton to we can't cotton to those pesky regulations, from DC. Which means
you suffered a few years ago because of it.
Oh, we have much less reliable than either of the national grids, but so be it. Before this becomes a political show, Professor, that sounds like a lot of snow. And as I said, I hope there's not a lot of suffering. I hope it's a lot of just opportunity to spend time with loved ones, snuggling in front of the fireplace and catching a classic movie or something.
On the good news from New England Patriot defeated the Denver Broncos, and they're heading toward, to the Super Bowl.
I used to live about 45 minutes from the stadium when I lived in Rhode Island.
Did you really? Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm about 2 hours away from the stadium. I don't really watch football technically, but it's like good news still.
Yeah,
we haven't been to the Super Bowl in like 7 years, so we haven't won it in 7 years, I think.
Well, you need another quarterback.
Tom Brady was with the.
You need another quarterback from University of Michigan, maybe.
Yeah.
Great to have you, Professor. Let everybody know where they can find you, please.
So you can find me on YouTube, you can find me on Facebook, and you can find me on Instagram. And the best way to email me is Instagram and Facebook. It may take me a while to get back to you, but I'm available on those venues.
Awesome.
And my channel on YouTube is Experiments in Conservation. And happy to be here again, Dr. Paul and Larry. Good to see you guys.
If you're somehow not subscribed to either of these channels, shame on you. Go out, check it out. This channel hit a milestone.
Yes, it did.
We have had over 250,000 video views on Liberty Hill Comics. And in fact, we're still, it's just cruising. We're at like 270,000 views on the channel, which is just
crazy,
humbling and amazing. And I can't say thank you enough. I'm glad we're reaching that many people. And I'm humbled that people spend their precious time with us, because obviously that is the most valuable commodity anyone has. Speaking of time, you get to watch us here live today without commercial interruption because of a few people that I want to mention. And they are Loston Wallace of comic book artist fame, Don Carter, You Pluck My Last Comic, Salesboy Comics, what's up, keep it moist, Collecting Chaos, Gorilla Monkey 3K, and AG, who we know as Aubrey. Thank you all so much for the super chats last week. They are sponsoring this show, and again, they're allowing you to watch us ad-free. I see Phil backstage, so I think we'll get
good
soon. And let's just say hi to the chat. So Collecting Chaos is here. Chili House, because his house is 100 years old. Oh, I'm jealous. I love classic architecture. Hopefully you've got some nice renovations that keep it usable in 2026. The professor's here, of course. Mason Jones, welcome to the show. He says my dream comic, yours and mine as well. The aforementioned Salesboy is here. Welcome. Ben Stewart is here. Hello. Collecting Chaos, as almost always. Come to the conclusion, pretty much any comic I don't have is a dream comic. Aubrey's here. Welcome. Welcome, Phil. We're just saying hi to everybody. Jason the Archivist just says he's a conservator of an age. I believe it. Starman's here. Welcome. How are you? He says, loved it. Great work. Well, we're going to have a great reveal at the end of the show today, and I'm super looking forward to it. Neuro Comics is here. Welcome. Vulu's here, as always. Salesboy, thank you for the super chat. Appreciate you. We have our first sponsor already for next week. And Salesboy says, I'm Ford. I guess he means Found on Road Dead. I assume. Can't say otherwise. Gorilla Production 73 is also known as Gorilla Monkey 3K. Ben Stewart's here. Silver Spidey 18's here. Jerry the Jitterbug, welcome.
Hey, Jerry.
Chat. Hopefully we'll We'll get some good interaction with Jerry tonight. Collecting Chaos, thank you so much for the super chat. I also hope everyone is keeping warm. And like I said, that we don't have any really terrible, anybody really suffering from the weather here. 12 degrees in Southeast Michigan. Yeah, I talked to my dad, and he's in mid-Michigan. I thought he said yesterday the high was 5. Like absolute, not like wind chill, like absolute high of 5.
Well, I promised myself I would never live anywhere where I had to own a snowblower.
I just got him.
It explains a
guys,
lot.
I just
I don't
bought
blame
him
you, Larry.
like an electric shovel. It's like it's battery operated, and it's basically a shovel but a mini snowblower. He said it works pretty good for 2 to 3 inches.
Larry's not sold on that.
Bronzo's here. Michael Mirad says he shoveled twice today. Thank you so much, Jerry, for the kind words. I know, well, I don't know for sure, but I imagine yours is probably 1 million by now. Billy Pilgrim is here. I mean, if it isn't, it ought to be. Billy Pilgrim's here. Mason Jones is here. JCP is here. And
I'm lurking like that.
I'm assuming David has been busy, probably snow blowing or something all day. Welcome, Phil. We've already set our highs and checked in, and glad to have you.
Well, then,
join.
gosh darn it, I'll say hi, everybody, and I'll check in too. So,
Please do.
As I always say, coming live from the border of Brooklyn and Queens here in a very cold, snowy Sunday evening. It's like real feel negative something out right now, so it's not the best conditions for going outside, but it is great conditions to stay inside and talk comic books. Woo! So this means that Sunday night, it means we get to talk some comics, and appreciate you guys giving me some time. I've been really busy today, and I had to make some slides for this cool book that I'm going to show.
Yeah, well,
we're
looking smart.
We're trying to stretch the opening out. Phil is the star of the evening tonight, so that it was very important that he wrap it all up.
Yeah, this was a must get done. And then the last thing I'll say is Phantom Comic Studios on Instagram is the easiest way to find me, or the website right beneath my name here. There's a contact form that'll shoot me an email there, and
links in the description for all 3 of these gentlemen, by the way. And I guess I must have missed you pluck my last comic. He says he's chopped liver, so obviously Pluck My Last Comic is not chopped liver, but I'm only one guy and I'm just doing this on the fly. So welcome also to fellow Hill Countryman Phil Criminale. He informed me this week, by the way, that he's got snow tires on his Cybertruck.
Oh, wow.
I guess,
Nice.
All right. Well, I think we've got all of the preliminaries out of the way, Phil.
Should I can add it to the stage, or we can still all just be on the side left there, right?
Yeah.
I believe so, yeah.
I can do it if you...
then
there we go.
With the click of a button. This intuitive StreamYard is. I love it.
Well,
here is a book that I consider a grail for sure.
Oh, yeah.
We've had this conversation a few times, but
that is a blue chip grail for certain.
Yeah.
No question.
First appearance of 2 of the founding members of the JSA. And although Flash had to leave for some weird rule that they had, that once he got All Flash, he had a solo title, he had to leave. But Hawkman is the chairperson, the chairman for JSA for most of the existence of the Justice Society. So obviously an important fellow. And then you have 3 other first appearances who, today are less prominent in pop culture, but important nonetheless through the golden age. This book is, to me, definitely one of the, I don't think anyone could argue it's not one of the top 10 most important comics ever. I don't know if people think it cracks into the top 5, top 3. I don't know. Thoughts?
It's definitely in the top 10 for certain.
Yeah.
This is 1940, right? 1940, it says.
It is, which is, as we know too, it means this book was on stands in like November 39, which is even kind of crazier to think about.
Yeah.
Nutty. Such an early comic book.
Beautiful.
I don't want to steal your thunder if you had a lot of history to talk about, but I just thought I'd give that intro. If you have slides to guide conversation about the importance of this book, or if we just want to wax
this is
poetic about it for a little bit.
Yeah, it's more or less what you just said. I mean, just for those that aren't tuned in, because it is a book you see, but you don't see a lot, because I'll show in the next slide too. There's really not a whole lot. There's not a whole lot of copies for this being a first appearance of a major character, when you really think about it. So that said, as we just said, published by DC in January 1940, so it was on newsstands a couple months before that. It contains the first appearance of Flash, Hawkman, and a courteous nod to Johnny Thunder, Whip, and of course Shira Sanders. And it's got stories by Gardner Fox and John Wentworth, and the cover is by the legendary Shelley Moldoff, who is probably best known for maybe his Hawkman kind of stuff. I mean, Paul, I know you're a big DC guy, and I know you have feelings about Shelley.
Yeah, so I mentioned already 2 JSA founders here. The longtime chairman Hawkman, but you also have Johnny Thunder and Shira Saunders, who later become members of the JSA. So in total, you have 4 members of the JSA making their first appearance here. Shira Saunders, of course, Hawkgirl, later in All-Star number 5. I guess for me, one of the other really interesting things about this book is, DC Comics at the time was All-American Comics and Detective Comics, National really, and they're being co-marketed, but they're technically run as separate houses, and they're separate entities legally, right? And so you have this arm, the All-American arm, that produced ultimately All-Star Comics and JSA, and that's where you see all the members of the JSA born, right? Where we get the Spectre and Dr. Fate, where we get Flash, Hawkman, Hawkgirl, where we get Johnny Thunder, where we get Green Lantern, later the Atom, etc. And so for me, this is interesting as a contrast, because this, at the time, you can think of it as, it's not even really a sister company to DC at the time. It's just this loose conglomerate that's being co-marketed with Action and Detective and Superman and Batman. So while we think of DC as a very integrated, tight sort of universe now, at this point, it was a very loose universe. And in fact, at this exact point in time, there had been 0 crossovers, not even so much as a mention in any of those books of the sort of recognition of the existence of any of those other heroes. So, Flash does not acknowledge that Superman exists or Batman, etc. So for me, the other kind of really interesting thing about this is it's the first blockbuster book from All-American Comics. And so I think from that perspective, it has, if you view it through that lens, it has a little extra special meaning from my perspective.
Nice. Let's look at the census. So in total, 99, just under 100 total copies. 56 of those are universal. There's 2 qualified, 1 conserved, and 40 restored. And I think it's notable too. It's a nuanced kind of thing you're looking at here, because while there's 56 universal, if you got 7 that are a 0.5 grade, you can assume that those are universal and unrestored but incomplete copies. So really, if you deduct that, you're talking under 50 complete unrestored copies of Flash Comics 1. That is I know, Jason, it's not 12, but but for a a first appearance character like this is, compare that to Spider-Man or any of the superheroes from the 60s, thousands of copies. So for such an iconic book, this is, if you're gonna find one, you got a 50-50 shot the one you find is probably restored. And then
so again, in context with Action 1, Tech 27, this is right in that same ballpark. Fewer copies of All-American 16 exist, or have been preserved, I guess I should say. But it's right in that same ballpark. And then it's again, they're on that first tier threshold where, All-Star 8, Captain America 1, those books are the next tier in terms of they have approximately double this number in the census. So these are truly grails. And I'm super excited to see what you've done with it, because I know from talking to you, Phil, that you put a lot of work into this book. And so this episode's going to be a little bit of a restoration, removal / conservation tour de force, because so many things have been done to this book. And I'm super excited to see the reveal. And so that's one of the reasons, folks, if you looked at the thumbnail has the before image. That's as the book existed when Phil got his hands on it. And we expressly didn't show you the final. I think probably after the episode, after the reveal, I'm going to change the thumbnail to show the final result, because it's so amazing. Nice. But for now, everybody can guess what it is, and we'll do a little chat participation before the reveal.
Just for some shameless self-promotion to my Instagram, if you're one of those people who, if you are watching a movie or TV show and you just can't help yourself and you got to go on Wikipedia, the plot synopsis and everything, you can go to my Instagram and I posted the day after. So if you really can't help yourself and in the next 30 to 45 seconds, you got to see, you can, just saying, you can even like the post, you can leave a comment, you can tell me that you think my face looks funny and I did awful work or whatever you want. But
you can also do that after the show and preserve the fun. In the chat.
Exactly. You really should do it after the show. Don't listen to me.
Yeah, I already went and I saw the post, and fantastic work.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Our viewership just dropped off by 10 people.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
Let's jump in. So I always like these kind of photos showing it is kind of I'm privileged to get to crack out books from slabs that are higher values, especially a book like this. This is one that I took some B-roll reel and took a video of me cracking it out, because it's, to me, I do this professionally and I still recognize that it's not really normal to get to crack out and handle a book of this caliber. This is a serious comic book. I really view this as like a historical artifact. I'm like, yes, I know it's a comic book, but it's
which version of the slab was it? When was it graded? Because some of these slabs are easy to open, some are just horrendous to open.
Yeah, I think this, just judging by the way the label is here, I'd assume was probably in the last 10 years. I think now we couldn't check because I believe this has been removed. The original label has been removed from the census now. But,
very interesting aside here. I don't know who's seen Selling Superman. If you haven't seen it, you definitely should watch it. It's now on Amazon Prime for any subscribers, free there. And Matt Nelson cracks the Superman #1 7.0 that belongs to Darren. And he does it off camera because apparently their cracking and opening process is proprietary. He would not let Adam film it,
Huh.
which I thought was really fascinating, right? That, you know, whether or not we all know how to do it, it's no big deal, or whether or not they have some secret way to do it, I don't know. But I thought that was fascinating. I don't know if anybody else saw Selling Superman and enjoyed that aspect of it. Adam, the producer and director, he actually, he or one of his assistants dropped the Superman 1/7.
Oh my God.
And
Jeez.
they cracked the case. Darren was beside himself.
That's
no,
terrible.
no spoilers, but they end up taking it. They literally fly to Sarasota and hand deliver it to Matt for reslabbing and reholdering, I guess is the technical term. And they film as much of it as they can. But again, yeah, interesting to me that they would not allow cameras to film Matt releasing the comic from the slab and from the inner well.
They probably have a machine or something that does it, I'm guessing. Because they deholder a lot of books because people want them regraded.
Yeah.
So they have a machine
may.
that makes a slab. They have a machine probably that pops
They
it.
may. I think the slab is sonically welded.
It is.
But I think the impression one gets from watching the film is that Matt's just doing it at a tabletop. Just off
I
camera.
assume, yeah.
Well,
I assume,
But maybe to your point, though, Larry, it would make a lot of sense. And maybe they do have a machine. Maybe that was done for effect.
Well, if you hear Matt making a loud crack in the off screen, then you'll know.
yeah. I've only ever seen it done one way, so I'm sure while it's in the same way where some people that do pressing are like, it's all proprietary, we can't show you anything. We know that it's humidity and pressure, and there's only so many ways to open a book.
Yeah, I show it on my videos how I open it, and I actually just pop the corners with the screwdriver, and that's it.
Have you guys seen that one where people just literally slam it on something and it cracks?
Yeah, Jeff Itkin did that.
I saw Jeff, but I don't think Jeff.
Golden Age. Yeah, I watched Jeff do it. He smacked it on the edge of a table, and it shattered. And yes, they did get the book out, but the shards went everywhere.
Yeah, it seems crazy to me.
Yeah,
Jeff was I guess I don't think Jeff invented that. I'm not, but I don't know who.
No,
did.
he saw somebody do it.
Credit to whoever did.
It.
But it's very interesting. Jerry thinks they were just trying to create drama. I don't know if he knows.
Jerry,
you know anything about that, Jerry?
Right.
Just trying to create drama where there is none.
Let's look at this. Here's the not as often seen back cover, which is not as glorious as the front, but still half the book. And that said, you can see really how this book got a 7.5. While it's restored, I mean, just look at this thing. It's like
it presents beautifully. It's amazing.
Yeah,
it's got that staining on the bottom right. A little bit of wear on the bottom of the spine. And we'll see a little bit later on why it was capped despite the restoration still. But man, what a nice book. What a nice book. I mean, you see some copies of this, especially lower grade copies, and they are complete and they have eye appeal, but not this much. This is quite a lot of eye appeal for this book.
Welcome to the show, Mike. Glad to have you here.
But dun dun dun, here's some of that nasty. Here's some of that stuff that was done very favorably 30 years ago. But now we look at this and say, why?
Well, this is a great example of using an ultraviolet light for detection. So
oh thanks. I thought this was one that I was really not to toot my own horn here too, because I on one hand I'm mad I don't have the Q-tip photos, like the stacks showing the color touch being removed, but I have really good detailed photos of this blacklight illustrating clear process removal of the color touch, which I'll get to. So if you don't know what we're talking about here and you're new to looking at a book under blacklight, what we're talking about might just seem kind of up in the air. But just to clarify here, right? So look at the left photo. If you see the circle that says Hawkman there, just to the bottom left, there's a darkened area, and it goes over where it says the, and once you see it, you can see a clear delineation of that dark area against it. It comprises the orange, some of the white streaks, the area of the, and then if you work your way down, you can see more in the green strip.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the right, what you're looking at is the inside of the back cover, and along the spine edge, you see color touch there.
Yeah.
So
I always think it looks like kind of muddy. This kind of, to me, it looks like there's something like some clay smeared on there or something that doesn't show up under regular light. Also, there's some people that argue that black lights are useless in detecting color touch. I mean, they're not perfect. You can have color touch that doesn't show up like this, but you often get color touch showing up like this. So if you've heard somebody make that argument, I don't know. I don't want to disparage anybody, but it seems to me that they're just not very experienced if they're making that argument.
Well, the other thing about this too, these pictures that we're looking at right now, this is what the digital camera sees and projects to us. What you see with your naked eye using the ultraviolet light is much more clear and prominent,
much more obvious. Right?
It's really really
much
hard to get photos that show this. If you're taking photos like this, it's weird angle. It's one of those, it feels weird when you're doing it, but it looks good when you're looking at the photo. So
yeah, you got to get a special filter or something. I don't know.
Why would they do a color touch on the back of the cover? That's kind of weird.
we will see why. And honestly, after the removal, I hit a point where I was like, am I seeing what I think I'm seeing? And then once it was removed, I was like, oh, that is kind of cool, actually, reverse engineering this color touch and seeing the previous state of the book and why the restoration was done to begin with. And then also just to point at what you just mentioned, Paul, really in my experience, the reason that I think it's understandable why some people will say, black light doesn't show, or, you need fluorescent light or whatever. But in my experience, it really is a combination of both, because there's never as we've discussed too, there's not a universal code of what's been used for color touch. Primarily, we see a lot of acrylic, but not necessarily. And sometimes people would just remember in the 90s, just as an example, like I taught secondhand under one of the first guys that started doing this, Bill Cyril, and he was using and teaching people, showing them how to use K2R carpet cleaner to remove stains from books. So, there's some stuff that, while it can be beneficial and work, there's just better ways to do things, safer ways to do things now that keep the book's integrity more in mind.
And Jerry's question here is prescient, right? So before you start to attempt color touch removal, you've got to figure out what kind of color touch you have.
Right. Yeah. Oftentimes color touch, even if it's bled through, you're going to have to excise it. Even if it hasn't bled through, oftentimes you're going to have to excise it, especially on Silver Age, Bronze Age books where the paper stock is thinner. You can get away with scraping more on Golden Age books and salvaging paper underneath, but you really can't get away with it so much, even if it hasn't bled through on Silver Age books. So that's not all though, man. This thing had a lot. Just remember, so this thing was a 7.5B3, and just to re-detail the notes of the restoration, right? It was, just to be clear, color touch, spine split sealed, cleaned, reinforced, and staples replaced. So the 3 is color touch. That's why this book had a 3. The 3 isn't because of the because of the spine split seals or the cleaning or the reinforcement or the staples. That's the 3 is specifically color touch. If there wasn't color touch, this would have been a B1.
So remind us, ABC is professional, C is amateur, B is in between, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is the amount. So 3 is, I forget, is it moderate? Is that what they call it?
Yeah, moderate, somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
And we can see here this does comprise quite a bit, and it really can also help to illustrate how even a 1 level, if you're taking a percentage of what we're seeing here, can still add up to be a little bit more than you may imagine it to be. So,
Sure.
On the left, you see the inside front cover, so you can see more color touch along the spine there. And then what you're seeing on the right is the first page open. So you're looking at the inside of the first wrap, and the first wrap also had reinforcement along it.
Right.
So
Jerry's point here, color touch solid, meaning the color is not the dot matrix that you know from the blown up images of comic book covers. That doesn't help you in the white area, by the way. And I guess, to CGC's point 10 years ago, vis-a-vis this lawsuit that they ultimately lost, some people are literally doing micro color touch where they're using single hairs.
That's mind-boggling to me.
yeah,
So-
talk about having patience to do this work. That's a whole different thing.
But that's another, in terms of like we discussed, in terms of the toolkit that you have the blue light, you have magnification to see if the dot matrix is there or it's been disrupted or if it's irregular, etc. And all these things play in.
Yep. Let's just look at some nice photos now in black light, though, right? Let's admire this beautiful book. There's it open to the front, first page. You got the inside ad there for All American Comics. You can just kind of see how flush the interior is there on the right. The page quality was so nice on this book. Really, it was remarkable. Really.
Who's read the Flash first appearance and origin from this book?
Not me.
I can't say I read it. I'm familiar with the plot itself, but not with this.
It's actually pretty hilarious, and his love interest here chastises him
Doesn't want to go out on a date with him, huh?
for not playing football like a man. It's hilarious. Actually, go read it for sure.
It's like Clark Kent and Peter Parker. They were great.
And Jay Garrick, spend your time doing something like a real man, like playing football today.
Here's just some nice photos just in incident light, and showing the inside ad on the back cover and how nice this book is kind of sitting just before I got to really get to work.
It really is. Yeah, it's
such a sharp copy.
It's a beauty. Ben, my favorite reprint of all of the Golden Age first appearances and origins is actually a book published either in the 70s or 80s by DC, and it has included in it the Golden Age origins and the Silver Age origins, sort of back to back, of Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Flash, Green Lantern. Highly recommend you find that used. It's a very inexpensive book, and I like how it contrasts with some commentary from the Silver Age creators, and it also goes into the details behind, like Wonder Woman actually has her origin is reprinted 3 times in the Golden Age with new material each time, and highly recommend that book since you ask.
Let's get right down to it. Had to take those old bad 90s staples out, get the cover separated from the interior, and
so this was staples replaced was one of the comments on the label, if I remember correctly. So these staples are going to be discarded.
Correct.
Yep.
And I'm going to start at the centerfold. So the centerfold had a few bits of reinforcement there on the inside. Because whoever did this work clearly did a great job. They knew what they were doing. They knew to reinforce the centerfold from the inside. So when you were looking at it, dead on, when you open the book, you wouldn't see it. And this was off to a good start. I was able to kind of moisten it and remove it, and really not cause really any damage to the newsprint, which is very susceptible to tearing, even removing archival mends. It can be very unforgiving if you've reversed even standard conservation, let alone restoration. Sometimes it was put there because it was delicate, and getting it off is just a little bit too much for the paper to handle. So this was a nice case. You can kind of see the original wear there with some just kind of standard tearing, that caused the centerfold to become detached to begin with.
What was it they used there, Phil, for the crimp area?
Sometimes it's a little easier to gauge. Honestly, I know sometimes there's heat set tissue. Sometimes it's some sort of just an archival mending tissue and wheat paste. Sometimes you can remove. I mean, I feel like in some ways it's kind of just like the color touch, where there's a guidebook, but there's no straight on rules. So sometimes I can kind of take a guess on what I think it is, but there's no way to know, unless it's like the most straightforward is just mending tissue and wheat paste. That I can know for certain. Sometimes it's like it might look like archival tape, not necessarily heat set tissue.
Sure.
Sure.
Thank you.
It can definitely vary. And based on that too, so you can see if you look on the left here, right? I'm of the assumption here that it was maybe even done by two different people at two different times, but regardless, two different materials were used here, because this came off fairly easily. You can see the reinforcement here. If you look at the before too, it's not nice cut strips like you can see. Like, it is caked on whatever was there. So to come off, that caused some paper loss. But in my estimation, it seemed fairly ideal, because once the first wrap is kind of put back on, and you can see in that after photo on the right, it looks very natural wear. And you're starting to see the reverse engineering of the restoration kind of to show and explain what the book went through in the past, which little spoiler alert, the cover was totally split and detached. So you're going to get this with a book that already has a split and detached cover. The first wrap is now exposed, and now you're going to start to have this wrap start to split. And if it wasn't handled in the manner that it was handled, this probably would have split too, and then you would have had the book just would have continued to fall apart more and more.
Sure.
And so once that was done, I really had to psych out how I was going to get going on this, because if you've removed color touch before, you know that it can, well, 3-level color touch is quite a lot. Let's just say that. So really, I think I have you, Professor, in some way to thank for the way I was kind of reassessing this one, because in the past, even if you're using solvents to remove color touch, I've run into a lot of issues with that. You don't want to leave tide marks. You don't want to accidentally expose the book to enough chemicals where you're causing CGC to note it as being restored. It's a slippery slope where you really need to tread lightly. You also need to be very careful that the colors aren't going to bleed and not just become removed. Captain, you just experienced with a book that you removed some color touch from.
Yeah.
Which,
although with ultimately phenomenal results, though.
I was able to get it all out.
Yeah, no, you persevered where I think a lot of people would have. Let's say the book may no longer be with us, and it would have been thrown across the room. so kudos to you for keeping all that.
Yeah, well, it was my book, so I was just like, I was not going to let it go that easily.
Fair enough. In this case, the way that I determined was that there was some most of the color touch here I was able to remove with solvents, but some of it had to be scraped away. And my fear when I first started doing this was that that color touch you saw on the front cover over the colored areas was going to have to be manually scraped, and you're going to lose eye appeal. And to convert the book either to conserved or universal, it still would be a win at the loss of removing, some of the original color, which is a bummer. And it's like, how can this be averted? There's got to be some way to avert this. And I don't know the exact video I saw of yours, Professor, but there was one video where I just something clicked, and I was like, just try thinking about this from a different perspective. And so looking at this under the black light, this is probably some of the most comprehensive process photos of color touch being removed that you can very clearly see. So as I described earlier, you can see the darkened area. That's where there's color touch all along the inner spine here. Basically what I did was I lifted it instead of scraping it with Q-tips and solvent, and to the point where if you've done this, each Q-tip has one use. Like you're putting solvent on it, you're wringing it out so there's only the minimal amount, and you're basically going once and you're letting it lift up what's there, and then you're letting everything dry, and then sometimes you're buffing the surface of the paper again. In this case, I had to keep doing that every time I did that because you're compromising the sizing of the paper. So I had to basically remove color touch, let it dry, size, repeat. And I did that a lot of times on this book, but it was clearly a book that required that. So, and I unless I'm mistaken, this case, yeah, no, that's what we're looking at here. So this is once a lot of it was really starting to come off. I think on the inside cover, sorry, forgive me, because I do work on a lot of books, and sometimes while I have the photos, I'm trying to remember the exact process that I did. And I think that there was some combination of light, scraping, for lack of a better word, of some of this. So this wasn't all just being removed by the solvent, but it was mostly being removed by the solvent.
Yeah. Hey, Don, welcome to the show. Jerry wants to know if you're going to share the solvent you used, and then I have some follow-up questions.
I mean, I'll be open. It was rubbing alcohol.
Yeah. The white, ordinarily, what is color touch on white, right? Like I've seen whiteout used.
Yeah.
But what else do people use? Do they use pastels?
Yeah. Acrylics are the number one thing that I encountered, but I've encountered stuff where I'm not exactly sure what it was, nail polish or something, like there's people who've used some creative things over time. So it can be kind of tough to tell.
Whiteout, you can scrape it actually off very easily.
Yeah.
It dries out and you can just like scrape it off.
Yeah. Because it's kind of setting really on the surface. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen colored pencils as well, Jerry. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. I've seen some spine work that to the naked eye was so well done. Unless you actually hit it with proper light, you wouldn't notice. And it was phenomenal.
That reminds me of the fellas from Spineworks that we met.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought they were chiropractors, but they actually do comic book work.
Shout out to Lenny at Spineworks.
Lenny.
So once I was able to, just for full disclosure too, what you're looking at here is color touch over the remaining reinforcement of the spine. So from that darkened area all the way up, the spine was totally split. And what I did here was wanting to tackle the color touch on the reverse side, but I wanted to keep the cover still attached. So I left just a little bit there, and I left the reinforcement, and I flipped it over to get started on this.
Sure.
Just because in my opinion, working at it together felt more favorable than in two separate cover pieces. I also wasn't totally convinced it was completely split, so I was still trying to err on the side of not pushing it.
Sure.
But here you can kind of see a little bit more talking about here. Now, on the outside cover, I think it was kind of hard to tell. It almost seemed like a combination of there was wear that compromised the surface level of the paper with some of it. So some of it had to be carefully scraped, especially on the outside cover. It felt like there was much more on the outside that needed to be. But that which wasn't, I could remove with the solvent. And then
So for those that aren't familiar, when you have wear on the cover of the surface of the book, you can have, what in a modern book we would call a color breaking spine tick, right? But basically you have exposed paper fibers, and where those have been color touched, they really wick that medium in there, and they will tend to be scraped away. Whereas if you have the sizing and the inks intact and you're color touching over, that's something where you may be able to remove it chemically, as Phil's done here. So it's a combination of those things, and you need to shift gears when you see that compromised paper versus where you see the paper and the ink layer being intact.
Yeah, I don't know. It seemed possible that maybe it got wet and that there was like a tide line that would have gone up along. That's my best guess. I really don't know exactly what this went through. But one thing that was kind of cool as I was removing, you can see the beginning of it here. There's two little dots right at the center of the spine that are very predominant in the after. And what you'll see, those are actually, once I show a few more photos, is staple holes that showed. And what happened previously was someone reattached the cover with two staples, and then that was covered up and masked by the color touch.
Yeah. So those are punctures, to my earlier point, those are punctures through the ink, through the sizing, and they exposed fibers. And so those fibers really wick whatever the medium is for the color touch. They really wick it in and they hold it. And just treating that with chemicals probably not going to be sufficient. Those are going to need to be excised. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, this was very honestly, I was a little bummed when I was looking at the photos because I thought I had a few more comprehensive process photos showing me removing the remaining color touch from the front here. But you can see here clear as day the before and after. If you look at the before, you can see that there's quite a bit of color still underneath, or at least there's image underneath where you see color touch. And sure enough, that was one of the areas, excuse me, where I was able to use the solvent to remove it carefully, very carefully at that, because you're going to start to remove you're removing it as it's also touching the original color. So you need to it's one of those things where that's really where you're like, I went very careful, and I was like, it almost in the same pattern where if you've erased over color areas, you understand the motion of like you're trying to get the eraser to just touch the surface of the paper. Like you're putting just enough pressure to lift the dirt, but not enough pressure to lift the color. And that's something that takes a little time, and it's kind of how you go in the angle. So that's kind of how I was attacking that colored area there. And that was the area that I was most that I thought was most susceptible to color loss. And again, it would have been, converting this to conserved while losing that color still would have been a win. But it was very nice to be able to keep that much original color in that area, despite how much color there was.
It's incredible. Yeah, that's incredible.
And you'll see here, I think. So one of the caveats was whatever was in the green, I guess, that didn't want to come up with the solvent and needed to be scraped. So you can see some obvious right along the spine green. But I mean, if you look back at the blacklight photos to see how much color touch, especially around that Hockman area, there was, and this is totally unrestored now, no color touch there, showing the original color underneath. Pretty big win in my opinion. And I do this, so I was happy once I was doing the same thing in that area that I showed in the back cover, seeing it coming off, and I was like, just like a kid at Christmas, like just being like, like seeing it coming off in real time and getting it off and looking at the Q-tips and keeping that color is very satisfying, especially in a book like this. So,
I wonder. I wonder, Phil, if it's mixed media, the reason why it doesn't come off in the green. If they were using acrylics elsewhere or whatever, but then they didn't have a good match for that, so they used a pen there or something else. I don't know.
If you look on the right now, you can see two different sets of staple holes with what looked like evidence of an old piece of tape that was right over it too, which is kind of cool. When you really look at the before and after of just that back cover area, man, whoever did the work on this, yeah, got to give it to them. They did a really good job of masking that area. You wouldn't have even known that that was there. So
yeah,
sorry that I had to remove it, whoever did the work, but
no, it's a great job. I mean, it's a good thing the cover is thick, right? So you can scrape it off and still have paper underneath left over.
Yeah.
So you're not really compromising. Everything is holding up okay, and it looks great.
Exactly. You can see the area of the back cover, the areas where there's still the sizing and areas where that top layer was scraped to remove the color touch, presumably because it was already compromised by a stain or whatever it was. But really, it's ideal that it was just in the area where there wasn't any color and it was a white area anyway. So kind of best case. I don't know if I think the next one might be the reveal.
Yeah. The last slide is the reveal.
So just for full context here, the spine is completely split. And then I also need to say a few disclaimers, and I really do need to go back and revise my Instagram post because this is a defining book in my opinion. And I say that really for one big reason. And well, you know what? Really, it's two things. So this book to me really clearly illustrates that CGC has changed their stance and or now view certain types of cleanings differently. And I say that because those that know restoration removal would say, how did this book get a universal label if there was a cleaned notation, right? That would be, and that was my hesitation with even doing the conservation to begin with. So this
is something we all you discussed with us, and
yeah.
At the time, I thought, and it's just been my experience in reviewing a lot of these books that the cleaned notation is one that's a little bit more. It's just a little bit less objective. It's more subjective, right? I think they look at some of the processes that were done and they go, well, we can throw cleaned in along the way. Like we think, well, this, for example, was leaf casted. Yeah, well, it had to be in water, so it was cleaned. So we throw cleaned on sometimes, and sometimes they don't. I think the cleaned notation sometimes is with very specific tells, and there's no way to undo it. But many times it's just a throw in with a bunch of other work. And in that context, it didn't really matter, right? Like this was going to be restored, even if they didn't throw cleaned in there, right? Because of the other work. And in those instances, you then look at those tells and you say, well, are the tells present? If they're not present, CGC is not necessarily compelled to give it the cleaned notation. Sorry for the interruption. I'm not sure if I stopped your flow, but I think we should give a full summary of what was done here and then up to the submission, and then we can quiz the audience on what they think it came back as.
Yeah, I did just want to say the other note too. So that's pretty important. So on one hand, yes. So this book really illustrates that CGC grades the book as it sits in front of them, and reviewing this book, they determine that looking at it now as it sits, the cover does not appear to give off any telltale signs that it has been cleaned.
Jason's got the answer.
I wish it was that easy. The other big thing here too, and I've openly talked about this, and I don't think that I have any hesitation in talking about it because I've done quite a bit of it, and that is the staples. So in this case, the long and short, what happened is I have been given just a somewhat unique privilege that is offered to other people that work on higher end books. and I'm able to get some books reviewed by CGC prior to grading. And this was one that I wanted to have inspected prior to having the conservation done, because I didn't want to do the conservation if the book could be could get a universal grade. One of the caveats with that was the Staples replace notation. So in my past, and as I've told clients, I've replaced staples on books that had staples replaced using period correct staples, where upon inspection, in the same way that CGC views the cover cleaning notation differently, they're grading the book as it sits in front of them, with 100% success. I've never had an issue doing this, and CGC always saying as they determine the staples look authentic, because I understand, sourcing period correct staples. Everything needs to match up and look authentic. To me, it's virtually the single gray area that exists in grading, because you are, in some cases, if you're doing this, technically taking pieces from another book that aren't original to the copy, but it exists within the caveat that the book is graded as it sits. And if you can't prove that the staples were replaced, then the only thing that exists is provenance. And that's a case and a lesson to be learned in this case, and that is that there is a caveat to replacing staples, and that caveat is if a book has provenance and is known, CGC as of right now has a policy where they do not agree with my stance on staples being replaced, which I understand. Maybe they'll change that in the future, but as of right now, because of their policy, this book was actually able to get the green light for a universal label saying that the cover is no longer being viewed as cleaned, but that the staples would have to be removed that were in it for it to qualify for the universal label, because they said that as it was graded before, the staples were replaced, therefore the staples have been replaced in the book, and there's no re-reviewing that. So there is a caveat to staples being replaced. So that was it's kind of a twofold thing. In terms of the cover cleaning and the staples.
Right. So if you don't mind, Phil, review the list of restoration items for us. And then let's talk about everything you did to address each of them. And then we'll talk about the state in which it was subbed. And then we'll let people guess, yeah?
Sounds good. So again, this was a CGC 7.5 B3, so somewhere between amateur and professional level. And what was removed was color touch. There was the spine split seal that turned out to be the entire spine was split and detached.
And the split seal you removed, we didn't see a lot of detail of that.
That's true. That's actually a good point. The spine split seal was actually a sub layer underneath the color touch.
Mm-hmm.
So you wouldn't,
as it usually is.
You wouldn't see that in the black
foundation
photos,
of the restoration. Yeah,
I didn't take additional photos of that, unfortunately, but that needed to be obviously removed once the color touch was removed. So hold on a second here. And then there was the reinforcement of the centerfold in the first wrap, and
also removed,
and the staples that had been replaced.
Right. So the state that it goes back to CGC is as you see it, but keep in mind, as Phil pointed out, cover is split, cover is also detached, staples are missing, centerfold is detached, although staples are missing, so I'm not really sure.
Everything's detached, but yeah.
much bearing. And that's how it goes back to CGC. So with those thoughts in mind, how about guesses?
Just to say this, I think that if you look back at the blacklight photos, this really does show, I think a 3 level is kind of right on par for what we're seeing here. I mean, you can make the argument it could be a 4 really, because there is quite a lot of color touch here not just the outside cover, but the inside cover. So,
and it also includes that 3 includes the totality of the restoration work. So that means the 3 includes the seal to the cover, right? It includes the seal to the interior pages. It includes the color touch. It also, by the way, includes the replaced staples, right? So that 3 is a number that's a composite, a summation of all restoration work that the book received. So
yeah, but it again, it is capped. They give the number, the umbrella number, based on that which. So if the color touches a 3, then everything is a 3. If color touch is included. If there was no color touch here, it would have been a B1. So
yeah. Okay, so guesses are starting to come in. Jerry says 2-0. Jason's at also 2-0. I am thinking, if I remember my CGC grading guide correctly, 2-0 is absolute top for a split cover. That means essentially almost nothing else is wrong. So I think that in my mind is top. And then I don't know if I need to subtract because staples are missing and we have a few other little defects. So I would say between a 1.5 and a 2, it wouldn't shock me to get a 2. I don't think it can be higher than that. I wouldn't be shocked by a 1.8. 1.5 would seem very harsh to me. So I have not, by the way, I have not seen the results. I'm just sort of talking through this in real time as I'm thinking about it.
if I could just say one,
Larry, you're out. Phil, you're obviously out. Sorry, go ahead, Phil.
We might have just mentioned it a minute or 2 ago, but just for those watching that aren't totally familiar with the scale, covers that are detached and totally split, the cap, the ceiling is a 2.0. So we couldn't or wouldn't really realistically expect anything above a 2.0 here.
Yeah, that was, like I said, my recollection of the rules is that's the absolute top. If you look at Matt Nelson in the grading guide for the CGC grading guide, there's a table and it shows certain defects, and then it shows you ranges of grades available for that defect. And if you look at split cover on that table, you can see that it can occupy 0.5, 1.0, 1.5, 1.8, or 2. That's it. That's where it sits on the table by definition with that defect. And then again, the grade is cumulative defects, right? So once you've determined that's the sort of cap. I was trying to sort of walk people through this. I don't know. Then you look at other defects and you go, well, are any of these enough to knock it down below that 2? I sort of feel like not.
The staples are that's kind of a big
Staples
deal.
are kind of big, and that's why I said maybe because the staples are missing, I could see a 1.8. Again, I feel like a 1.5 is harsh just because I think if you put this up against any other 1.5 that you could conceivably put in front of it, this is going to be the best 1.5 on the planet, if in fact it was a 1.5. And so I tend not to try to grade things as outliers. I'd rather see them kind of in my mind when I'm integrating all of the defects, I'm trying to put it in the mid pack, right? So anyway.
I do want to just, before the reveal, this is a great point, Jason. And just to say this here, the client who frequents this chat often, AG, who owns this book and has posted it on his Instagram here, he is very open to the idea of conservation. It's really just strictly from an equity perspective. And maybe I'm misspeaking here, but to my understanding, the big thing here was, at least for right now, maintaining as much equity in the book which is possible. But really, he I think is like me in that he finds it a bit silly that the staples would have to be removed to get the universal. That's one caveat. But really, it's cool that this can be prepped. Like this book for the future, if if it makes sense from an equity perspective, this book could be leaf casted and conserved and get maybe like a 5.0, Jason. So a dealer's owner's choice here on what would want to be done on this copy, at least for right now, though.
Sure.
The universal was the thing to keep.
Well, and I guess we should talk about that before we do the reveal. So the goal was universal. I think the presumption in most of our minds is that you accomplished that. But back to the earlier point you brought up, this said cover cleaned in the original notation. And you pointed out that CGC views staples replaced as a provenance thing, meaning even if you put a perfect staple match in, they're going to say, well, we can't tell that it was replaced because you did a perfect job. However, we know it was replaced because we know the provenance. Doesn't that then bring the question, well, we can't tell that it was cleaned, but we know it was clean because we know the provenance, right? I think that's that area where we talked about. But then I would go back to, you don't really know the original provenance. You were speculating that it was cleaned originally.
Exactly.
And that's why there's the room here for universal. I think we're all sort of assuming that you did it, but I guess we could have had the conversation if anybody who thinks that it's that it's not universal, that it's restored or conserved could pipe up. One of the comments that Jerry left was that it's cover washed here, that this is that the cleaned notation came from washing the cover. So I guess we're sort of presuming that you overcame that notation based on everybody's guesses here. But anybody else want to make a guess before we do drum roll and reveal here? I want to say, regardless here, phenomenal job, really outstanding. And as you say, what you've done is you've created, presumably, because I am presuming that you achieved a universal label here, you've created now the foundation for a conservation in the future should one want one. And part of the value of this, even if this ends up as a universal 1.5, which in my mind would be like worst case scenario, you have a book that has a lot more value than a typical fair market value for a universal 1.5, because anybody could view this and say, sure, but it's the foundation for a 5.0 conserved, for example. And I know what the value of a 5.0 conserved is, and that may be greater than a 1.5 conserved or a 1.5 universal or 2.0 universal. Anybody else want to have the last thought before we do a drum roll and reveal here?
I just find that Phil's work is so meticulous. I think the split cover, caps it at 2, and the other effects in this case may not drag it down any further. So I think I'm going to go 1.8 right now.
All right.
I do want to give a shout out to Matt Nelson, really, who, we know he's president, but he also does handle a lot of the bigger books. And he is really the person I need to thank for allowing my client to even really understand that there could be a more favorable outcome here without unnecessary costs. And that is something that I'm very grateful for. And to that point, when the book was being reviewed, at his word, he said the book can get a universal label, but the staples will have to be removed to get the universal label. Because full disclosure, I did add period staples that I thought looked chef's kiss perfect in this copy. And I thought that it would be acceptable to keep them in. But to get the universal label, according to the previous provenance, that was his determination. But even still, for him to offer that and to do it and extend that and get this in a universal label, I'm very grateful for.
Oh, yeah. Matt is so generous with his time. He's so gracious. He's so unassuming. He's such a true fan.
He is. I mean,
I really have positive things to say about him, and he's helped all of us.
Yeah, he's cleaned one of my books for me. Hey, I was working. I went ahead and cleaned your back cover for you. Okay.
if anyone has qualms about what Matt's doing in CGC, all of us here can probably attest that he is in it for the love of the books, and he really is a great resource. And I am very thankful for him.
He enjoys working on books, not just grading them. He enjoys the actual work and seeing what they look like after they're done.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, I think without further ado, I'll do the drum roll if you want to do the slide.
All right.
There. Ready? We got the bongos. Here we go. Hey, spot on. Congratulations.
I do want to say my first thought when I got this grade was thank you for Professor for being the catalyst for me saying, maybe I should tackle this with the solvent instead of just scraping, because undeniably the difference between a 1.5 and a 1.8 here is because all that color I got to keep on the front cover that would have come out otherwise, and that would have been the difference in eye appeal and in technical grade. And on this book, that would have been the difference of tens of thousands of dollars. So I'm sure AG's very happy. I'm very happy. I think it came out looking great, and I think that the grade is very fair.
I mean, who would not be over the moon to have this book in this condition in their collection?
Beautiful.
Oof.
Well, Aubrey is in our audience right now, and I want to say congratulations to both Phil and Aubrey on this book.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much, Gorilla Production 73, for the super chat. We appreciate you. He says, bravo, Phil. Bravo indeed.
Thank you, guys.
Lots of congratulations. Mike says congrats. Jerry says nice. Good job. Beautiful. Wow. Everybody's kudos from Morris, who's joined us. Welcome, Morris. And AG, the aforementioned owner, says bottom line was Phil was able to nearly 3x the equity in this. Wow. Oh, I actually, you know what? Before we read that, let's go back to, I think, here we go. AG says, I use the knowledge from this show and other people's work on this show, plus Dr. Paul's and Shelby's book, to purchase this, a likely conservation but remote universal book. So point being, AG actually set out to purchase a book where he thought there was upside equity using techniques that we promote on here. And again, I certainly don't claim to be an expert in this field. I am an expert in devouring a literature and then summarizing it for other people, which is what Shelby and I did in this book right here. And I am so thrilled that people are using those techniques, that the book in some way has helped some folks, and that everybody in this community has contributed to that book, including the professor and Larry and Phil and many of the other viewers here on the channel, and obviously Jerry and Matt Nelson, who wrote the foreword for us. So, point being, AG set out to buy a book where there was the potential for creating equity using some of the techniques that we have been championing. And his estimate is that the equity was threefold increased by Phil's work here, which I think by any
I agree as well.
By any metric is a grand slam, but especially in a book of this import. And not for nothing, but that census, you did of course send the purple label back in, Phil.
Oh yeah. I mean, that was part of the predetermined provenance, so that was
So the census net did not change, but the restored copies was decremented by 1, and the universal copies increased by 1, which warms the cockles of my heart. Anybody else's cockles warmed?
By this result, I mean, I have certain CGC submission refreshes where I click the button and my neighbors can probably hear me yelling in a good way, not in a bad way, because I do internalize the negative feelings, but boy do I let those good feelings out. And this was one where I saw the 1.8 and I was like, oh hot damn, like I think I might have giving Aubrey a call, because this was that's a big deal. And if you know the book and you've seen other lower grade copies, this is easily the one with the most eye appeal, bar none. I mean, really, how isn't there just a big crease in the cover? I mean, you know, things where it's like it easily could have got that over its lifespan, but it didn't. That's crazy.
Yeah, yeah. And to the point earlier, I think, like, again, anybody sees this foundation and says potential, 5.0 conserved or in that ballpark anyway, and then you could start to look at the fair market value of the conservation, and you can make a decision. But for now, I mean, it holds the equity very nicely here, and it's got to be, if it came to auction, this would for sure shatter all records for fair market value for a 1.8. Like, not even close. I would.
It presents so well.
Yeah. I would bet quite a bit on that. Right. Yeah. So congratulations again, Phil and AG, longtime supporter of the show, Aubrey, who trusted you with this book, and we thank him for it. We thank him for taking a chance with you and taking a chance with this book, and for having the foresight to see, because I think I apologize, I forget who commented, but it might have been Jason. Once you cracked this and you saw the extent of the work and you saw what was going on there, I mean, some part of most of us would say, did I bite off more than I could chew? Should I just put this back? Put this back in there? Can it just stay a 7.5 restored, right? So it takes a lot of confidence and a deep skill set to do what you did, and again, it takes also a lot of trust for somebody to empower you to do that. So thanks to both of you guys.
To thank the community, honestly, because this is what helps me get my extra R&D that I don't get as much as I used to when I first started. And I was more proactive in doing experiments and testing new things. And really, as a professional, what's so cool to me about this is that it opens the door and reduces the percentage of risk on a potential job. And what I mean by that is there are several factors to what I do. It's, can I do the work? But also it's kind of my responsibility often to say, does it make sense to do it? Does it make sense to do it from the integrity of the book? Does it make sense on an equity perspective? I can just do it, but that doesn't always mean that that's the right decision to do. So in instances like this, now I know that if I see a book like this that has a covered clean notation, we can expect that it might come back, or that a conserved route would be the most realistic scenario. In a case like this, we could still assume that remove all of the color touch, the reinforcement, and then leaf cast and conserve it since there's the cover clean. But there is a case that the cleaning could be re-reviewed and that a universal label is possible, and that makes it where the when you're on the fence of, does this make sense to crack and maybe look at the work, it really makes it a little bit easier to say yes now in books that you may not have, because if there's a chance that you could go universal, especially on a book like this, it's like, well, let's maybe take that chance, and then worst case, that opens up a small door of possibilities, which is pretty cool. And
I think that's the mark of a professional who doesn't just take work, but who advises on the value of the work and the pros and cons and the risks and etc. So again, well done.
Great job, Phil.
I think we could have done an intermission where we told everybody to give this video a thumbs up, follow all the folks involved here.
Leave a comment on the video afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely.
We
could have taken a break to do all of those things. We could have taken a break to tell you to come check out the Facebook group, the Comic Book Conservation Community. We could have done all those things, but we didn't. But we'll end the show as we always do with gratitude. Thank you all so much for joining us. Thanks again for the sponsors of this episode, who we mentioned at the beginning of the cast. And thank you so much to next week's sponsors who super chatted us this episode. Salesboy Comics, keeping it moist, collecting chaos, hoping everyone's keeping warm, and Gorilla Production 73, also known as Gorilla Monkey 3K, who says, bravo, Phil. And with that, I would like to extend my own gratitude to my co-hosts here, regulars Phil and Larry, and guest host Professor. Everyone in the chat, really appreciate the lively commentary. Special thanks to AG for trusting Phil with this book and for allowing him to share the results with us and the process, which not all owners are willing to do. And that takes also a little bit of courage and trust. So we appreciate all of you. Thank you all for being here. And until next time, take care of one another.
Good night, everybody.
Bye, everybody.